Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really getting into something heavy. We're exploring the legacies of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
That's right. We're using Atomic Shadow, Legacies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as our guide here.
Yeah, and our goal isn't just to recount the events, but to understand the ripple effects, the long shadow these bombings cast.
From the immediate horror to the health crises, the psychological scars, and even how it shifted global politics. It's a lot to cover.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Atomic Shadow kicks off with the just unbelievable immediate catastrophe. The numbers themselves are staggering.
They really are. We're talking roughly 140,000 deaths in Hiroshima by the end of 45.
And another 74,000 in Nagasaki.
Oh,
and so many of those were instantaneous.
Exactly. But the source, it highlights this sort of two-stage horror. The instant obliteration, yes.
Right.
But then this awful, drawn-out suffering for those who initially survived. Days, weeks, even years later.
And the physical destruction described in the book. It's hard to picture.
Utter devastation. Both cities essentially flattened within about a mile radius. Just incinerated. The temperatures at ground zero, they mention over 4,000 degrees Celsius. That's what, 7,200 Fahrenheit?
Unimaginable heat, leading to flash burns, fire.
Yeah, those horrifying shadows burned onto surfaces, and then the firestorms that followed. The immediate death toll was huge, but like you said, that wasn't the end of the story.
No, because then comes this invisible enemy, right?
Yeah.
The radiation. This is where Atomic Shadow gets really unsettling. It introduces us to the hypoxia.
The survivors, a powerful term. They faced acute radiation sickness almost immediately.
And the symptoms sound horrific. Vomiting, bleeding, hair loss.
Just falling out in clumps, the book says. And for many, these weren't just side effects. They were signs of impending death, sometimes weeks later.
And the long term. That's maybe even more insidious.
Oh, absolutely. The source details devastating long-term health issues for the hypoxia. Decades of suffering.
Like what specifically?
Significantly higher cancer rates. Leukemia spiked pretty quickly within years. Right.
Then other cancers, thyroid, breast cancer showing up 30, even 40 years down the line, plus cataracts, problems with fertility, chronic fatigue that never went away.
And it didn't stop with them, did it? The source mentions effects on the next generation, too.
That's a really tough part. It notes observed increases in birth defects and childhood cancers among the children of survivors. A genetic legacy, almost.
Beyond the physical toll, the book delves into the human scars, the psychological ones.
Deep wounds, lifelong trauma, PTSD is discussed, obviously immense grief.
And that burden of survivor's guilt. Why me? Why did I live?
Exactly. The book captures that profound sense of questioning and loss.
And then there's the social aspect, which is just awful. The discrimination.
Yes, the social ostracization. Atomic Shadow reveals how hypoxia were often shunned, difficulty finding work, partners?
Why? What was the fear?
A completely unfounded fear. The source stresses that radiation exposure was somehow contagious, or that they were just fundamentally damaged.
So they survived the bomb, only to face prejudice and isolation. A cruel irony, a social stigma that compounded the trauma.
Shifting gears a bit, the book obviously connects the bombings to the end of World War II.
Directly. Japan's surrender came just days later, August 15th, 1945. A pivotal moment.
But it wasn't just an end, was it? It was also a beginning.
Precisely. The start of the nuclear age, as Atomic Shadow frames it. This event immediately lit the fuse for the Cold War arms race.
U.S. versus the Soviet Union. Decades of tension.
Massive nuclear buildups, mamadi, mutually assured destruction, a whole new kind of global fear.
But it also sparked resistance, right?
Yes. Huge global anti-nuclear movements emerged, pushing discussions about ethics, war, the need for disarmament. Humanity had to grapple with this terrifying new power it possessed.
So wrapping this up, what's the takeaway here? We've seen this incredibly complex, lasting legacy.
It's multifaceted, isn't it? Impacting individuals, whole societies, global politics for generations.
Yeah.
And I think for you, the listener, delving into a source like Atomic Shadow really prompts reflection. Well, it pushes us to think about how understanding these intertwined consequences, the human cost, the global shifts, shapes how we view conflict today.
And the ethics of technology, our responsibility.
Exactly. How do we handle powerful advancements? What's our collective role in shaping a safer future? Knowing what we know now from moments like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it leaves you with a lot to consider.